Good day, everyone, and welcome to this exciting webinars on applying AI-assisted strategies in order to maximize content relevancy and human engagement. I am Rachel, a B2B marketer from the WriterZen team, and I am very thrilled to be your moderator for this dynamic discussions between the brilliant minds of Joyce and Afnan Rehan. So I hope that you guys are ready to have some fun. Okay. So I think to start off, I think I should let the speakers introduce a bit about themselves. Let's get to know each other. Why don't we start first with Joyce, please?
Hey everyone, lovely to be here to be sharing some of our insights about AI and how we can use it to generate human engaged relevant content. Again, my name is Joyce. I'm a content marketer and founder based in Hong Kong. I help those with an entrepreneurial mindset explore their full potential with content. And I really like helping different brands and even individuals discover what the story they should be telling and using content to attract the most opportunities. Over to you, Afnan.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So happy to be here. Thank you, guys. My name is Afnan. I am a SEO and content consultant, and I've been working with a couple of companies in the past. So a lot of companies in the B2B tech space, a lot of SaaS companies. So basically creating strategies for them and helping them scale their content marketing efforts is what I do best.
All right, welcome, guys. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Yeah, of course. So I believe, as you guys already know, AI or artificial intelligence term is not something out of the blue for us now, but it's become very hot recently because especially with the rise of ChatGPT from OpenAI. And myself as a marketer, I do think that we have a lot of questions regarding to this topic. Such as, will AI be able to replace us? Does it have any pros and cons? Like, what can we do? How can we integrate AI into our daily work, right? And I think especially for anyone who is a content marketers or writers in general, should they also utilize this in their strategies? I don't know if you guys can share a bit about how AI writing technologies can change the way content marketing landscape. Can I hear it from Afnan first, please?
Of course. So like you said, it's not something that is new to us anymore. And I'm actually pretty glad that ChatGPT came around, because now like a lot more people are having that conversation. Like it's no longer a conversation about when AI will be able to help us out, but how it can help us out now. So a lot of people have stopped being scared of AI as well, in a very weird way. Like I think that since people have gotten this experience with ChatGPT and experienced it firsthand, they now know that, okay, like these are the limitations, but you can also use them in a couple of different ways. So just to give you an example from like my own experience, ChatGPT, sure, like it just has been a couple of months since it came around, but there were so many other tools that nobody was really talking about all that much in the past before. Like even WriterZen, like I've myself been using it for about a year. Then there was Surfer, then there was ClearScope. So for my own strategies, like one of the best ways in which WriterZen itself has helped me is that I generally create like a lot of outlines for the different companies that I'm working with on a monthly basis. So we're talking anywhere between like 50 outlines per month for one client, and then other clients, of course, like depending on the niche that they're in and depending on their content requirements, they will expect a lot of content to come out. And it's not really scalable to do all of that research manually. So you can't really expect me to go to every competitor's blog for each one of my clients, because we're talking like 10, 50, even 100 direct competitors over here. So using AI, I think it's just made my own life so much more easier. Can't really talk from the perspective of writers at this point, because I've been a little bit away from the whole writing side. But in terms of strategy, like I use AI tools very, very regularly to do market research, to come up with better outlines, to even find out like what is it that's ranking on the top, like on the top page for any keyword. I even shared an example just yesterday, in fact, on my own LinkedIn, where WriterZen was actually showing that, for a specific keyword, you're actually better off creating like a landing page instead of an article, because the keyword was just way too transactional for an article to work for something like that. So yeah, scalability is one thing that it's helped out with so much. I think I would probably be able to create like 1/5 of the content that I was without using AI. So it's been great for me so far. I hope that it doesn't take over my jobs, but here we are.
Oh, so your experience with AI is very helpful, right? I can tell by
For
the way.
sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
Uh,
but I love the scalability that it offers, honestly. Like it's been a lifesaver.
yeah, of course. What about you, Joyce? What is your experience with the AI technology in your writings and all?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. So tapping back on what Afnan said, it's definitely a time saver as well as a consolidated, let's just put it that way, a consolidated platform for everything that perhaps a marketer would usually need to use various tools in order to gather, such as SEO or rankings or competitor or market research, or even copy points for certain topics that might be required for different blogs or articles that that person is writing. Now, for myself, I don't work very much in the SEO field. However, I do create a lot of content just for myself and my own brand as well. And what I've been doing is that, apart from realizing that there is definitely a need to implement AI tools into your content creation process, is that I've picked up this interesting idea, let's just put it that way, idea, concept that I would foresee people in using and adopting later on when they're more familiarized with AI tools, which is the ability to ask better questions. So as those of you who have actually watched the whole announcement of the ChatGPT with the Bing and the search engines, all that kind of stuff, right? It's really about, right now, people are asking questions which are fairly dumbed down for the search engine in order to get us the right answers, right? So none of us are putting in the search engine saying, tell me what I should cook for my husband when I only have a chicken in my fridge, right? Nobody's doing that because the search engine is unable to generate an answer that way. However, with things like ChatGPT or even just WriterZen as an AI writing tool, what it should be able to train us as human beings, which I find very interesting, is that we should be able to ask better questions, because now then we don't need to ask dumbed down questions. There is that tool and there is that ability to answer us in order for us to find the right answers. And that, for a content marketer, I think is a great thing, regardless of it being helpful for a writer or for an SEO expert or anybody like Afnan or myself, but really for our clients as well, right? When they're asking us questions or realizing what questions their target audiences are asking, they're only scratching the surface right now. But once you have AI tools implemented within various processes of creating content or search and things like that, you're really getting a much deeper dive into what people are actually asking instead of what they seemingly are asking. And that, for me, I think it opens really exciting doors for content creation overall for, individuals as well as companies.
Of course. Yeah, so I can tell that there's a lot of benefit for any content creator that wants to use AI in their strategy, content strategy. But here's the thing, we cannot always depend on AI generated content, right? So how can we avoid these situations coming along? Because I think that AI cannot be 100% accurate, right? And will there be situations where AI only create copycats content? What do you guys think about this? Let's start with Afnan, please. What do you think about this?
Right. So just to continue from like the examples that I was giving earlier on, having worked with a lot of different companies and having basically overlooked content for all of these companies, using exclusively AI, it doesn't exactly work for a couple of reasons. So when we're talking about ranking and ranking factors, everyone already knows that like the best way for, like, Google itself has told us what we're supposed to do. The EAT principles, that's exactly why they're in place. So if you're unable to set yourself apart from the content that's already out there, then it's not really going to work out. So using, like Joyce said, using AI as a generator of ideas as opposed to just uh, giving it a prompt and saying, you know what, just write the entire blog post for me. That exactly doesn't work out, right? So I think it's better off if we do ask better questions and then just use that as a starting point or as a springboard where we can use whatever ChatGPT or WriterZen or even Surfer SEO, like they can always offer us suggestions. But as content marketers, like our job is to create content that's original and add our own like unique perspectives to whatever it is that we're offering. Regurgitated content, like everybody knows that it's no good. There's already been so much of that, and I think that's why Google itself has been cracking down on content that's not really showing any real experience or originality. So, like I said, I think for writing itself, there's definitely a need for more of a human touch to be involved in the whole writing process. But for strategy, I think like it's a completely different ballgame. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I definitely agree. What about you, Joyce? Do you think of the human element when you use AI to generate your contents or something like that?
I mean, definitely. For me, there's two things that I really look at when it comes to an AI tool, regardless of it being a generating tool or assistant tool or whatever that it states that it is. There's two things. AI, first of all, it's a tool much like a knife, right? You can use a knife to cut bread or cut off steak, or if you don't have a butter knife, you'll just use it to spread butter on bread. Or if you're, an evil person, you might use a knife to kill somebody and attack someone. At the end of the day, it's a piece of tool, and it is used by a user. So the source of how it's going to be used still relies on the user itself. So at the end of the day, it really depends on how the user decides to use it. It's not that we have an AI tool and it can write this, therefore I need to write that piece of article or that piece of content. It's a function that it has, but it's up to the user to decide if it's actually purposeful and useful in order for them to achieve whatever the business goals or objectives that they're trying to strive within their content strategy or their content marketing strategy. So that's one thing that I truly believe, and I think should be what people think about when they're using any AI sort of tool. The second thing is, do not treat it as a point-to-point tool either. So what that means is, do not think that you can put something in and it will generate something and it's done. Think of it like you're training a new writer. If you're onboarding a new marketing executive, or if you're hiring a new freelance writer, it all takes time, regardless of how much experience, expertise, or knowledge that person has. So it's no different, because at the end of the day, they might come in and say, we're really good at this, we're really good at that. However, it still needs you to pick up and allow them to get used to what your brand message are, what your target audiences are, what your tone and manner is. And it requires a process. So anybody who's trying to use AI as a point-to-point tool would jeopardize the whole human aspect of how an AI tool is able to benefit you, and just regard it as something that pumps out content. At the end of the day, another content vending machine. You're just replacing it from a content marketer or a content writer like ourselves with an AI tool. So therefore, those are the two things that I would believe as being the most important when people think about how to utilize AI and generate content that are human-centric, or that is going to engage human. The point that the source has to be a human being. You have to be clear what you want in order to utilize that tool. And secondly, do not ever treat it as just a one point-to-point process, instead of a long-term kind of getting used to training it and you actually being able to maneuver with the tool in order to get the best output that you actually require as well.
Yes, I agree with you. Keeping the human-centric in your content, even when you use AI. And also, I heard you mentions about AI assisted. And I think that a lot of people are having a misconceptions about AI generated as well as AI assisted content. Why don't you just give us a quick overview of these two concepts so that we can have a better understanding? Yeah.
For sure. I mean, AI assisted pretty much just means that you already have some sort of asset. You have some sort of copy somewhere that you have already created, and you want an AI to assist you in making it better. So let's just take WriterZen as an example. If you do have a paragraph, you can plug it in WriterZen, and from what I understand is that you can actually right click and tell it to write the next sentence or write the next paragraph, and you can ask it stuff to enhance whatever you already have. So you're building on top of what you have. And essentially, that's what AI assisted writing tools are about. When it comes to AI generated tools, it really means you're starting anything from thin air that the AI is able to gather through sources online. So like what Afna has mentioned before, when she's trying to compile something for her clients, when it comes to outlines, it's really gathering stuff from the top ranking searches and pulling out as an example H1s or H2s or certain paragraphs for her to compile it into something that has been based on what is already existing out there. So it's really two different methods for anybody who's considering to use AI. If you were to ask me, just a little input here is that I definitely use both. However, I use neither in the sense that it's going to generate me something that I would use immediately. And I personally like using AI assisted tools a lot more, only because I do have a lot of content that needs repurposing. So when Afnan said, generating guidelines really helped her cut out a lot of work and saved her a lot of time. For me, AI tools really helped me cut out a lot of time and my effort in repurposing content, which I think a lot of people are missing as well when it comes to tackling or trying to enjoy the benefits of content marketing. It's really not just about creating new stuff because there's so much stuff there already. It's really about optimizing what you have. And in that sense, I think AI assisted tools can really help suggest ways for you to optimize existing assets and turn them into snippets or longer forms, or combine them, or update their tone and manner, and introduce new keywords, ideas from competitors, so on and so forth, to help you optimize what you already have existing. And that's what I enjoy the most as a content marketer myself.
That's great. Awesome to know. Yes, as you mentioned, WriterZen, we have a AI assistant tool. That's why we call it the AI writing assistant. And it did help me a lot in creating outlines or headings, stuff like that. What about you, Afnan? What do you think about the concept between AI assisted and AI generated? Do you have any case study or example to it?
Of course. So, like Joyce was saying, for repurposing, I think that AI, especially like ChatGPT, is something that I have been experimenting with myself as well. It definitely helps because, like, especially when you already have something to offer as a prompt to ChatGPT or even any other AI tool that's out there, you see, it all boils down to giving the tool the guidelines and telling it exactly what you need. Since ChatGPT is so new and like most people didn't really have any real experience with an AI tool before ChatGPT, or even like they were there, but nobody really knew that this is an AI tool that I can use for this purpose, right? So I think now that people are just starting to use ChatGPT and a lot of other AI tools, it's really important for all of us to ask it better questions and basically give it the right information that it actually needs to generate content that we're actually looking for. So for instance, using ChatGPT, like if I give it a blog post, then it can actually repurpose that into a social media post. It can repurpose that into a script, things of that sort, right? And for content that I am creating and for the content strategies that I'm creating, I think distribution is just like one of the most important things out there. So that is something that I myself have been experimenting with. Apart from that, like for my own LinkedIn and even for my clients' blogs and things of that sort, we have been looking into experimenting with other tools like for custom designed images, like because most stock images, they don't really cut it for most content, if we're completely honest, right? So just creating images that are original and actually relevant to what we're offering, what we're talking about in our articles, that is something that we've definitely been experimenting with a lot more. And I see like so much potential in all of this as well. So again, just to reiterate and just to sum it all up, using the content that is coming out of AI tools currently, like I don't see it as the final word ever. We could get to that point really soon. I'm not really sure about that. I think it's all gonna boil down to how fast AI is able to adapt and how fast we're able to adapt to all the tools that are out there. So yeah, it's I think one of the most important realizations that everyone has had right now, though, is that you can't really escape all of the AI tools that are coming out there. Like there's one for literally everything, every part of marketing, from keyword research to creating outlines to distributing content, even for email marketing and finding like email addresses, figuring out like the best way to contact somebody. So it's you can't escape it anymore. So like just being scared and putting your head under the ground and saying that, oh, it's not gonna affect me in any way, that's not gonna work anymore. The best possible course of action now is to start experimenting with as many of these tools as possible. The best part about them is that they're so intuitive. So like there's not really that big of a learning curve like from the UI standpoint, but figuring out how to use it properly for your own goals, that's what the difficult part really is. So yeah, my recommendation for anyone and everyone honestly would be experiment, ask questions, figure out what exactly it is that you need, and then ask better questions, basically.
Yeah, thank you. I really like the fact that both of you mentions about using AI for your own purpose. Now, let's say we all know our purpose is not to create copycat content, right? But what happened in the future is that ChatGPT or any kinds of AI technology continue to develop, right? And a lot of content writers wannabe, they use AI, they abuse this technology to create content. And then from at this point, from my concern, I don't think we have any tool to detect AI content, right? So what happened in the future? Can you guys predict that will this be a problem if everybody is continue to abuse AI tool? I want to hear from Joyce, please.
I mean, on a business standpoint, if you were to ask me, everything is really just a cycle. Like now that you're worried about people using AI to their advantage and pushing out content and claiming it's their own. You know, in the beginning, when people were writing online, it was the same thing, right? Like you're writing something online. How do I know if you were the one who was writing online? You're just writing your name there. And, you know, it's all a cycle. And first of all, I think it takes a bit of getting used to as well, because it's just a surplus of different AI generated stuff out there right now. Obviously, the whole goal of AI generated or AI assisted content is that you can't detect it. That's the whole point, right? If I'm just, you know, if I can detect it, then why am I asking an AI to write? It just means that it's always going to be a bar below what a human writes, and it doesn't really serve the whole purpose of it being a smart tool for us to utilize. So first off, I would think that it will take a bit of getting used to just that stigmatized. It's just the same as when we first started using the web too, right? Like everybody gets a chance to write something online, and then like, how do I copyright this, or how do I say it's mine, and all that sort of stuff. So first off, I think it's getting used to. Now, secondly is when you're creating things that's using AI and you're publishing it online and using that, predominantly right now, as of now, that I know, is that it's really gathering different content that they can find online and then puzzling it into an answer for you to use. So therefore, which is what Afnan and myself have said, you know, you can't really just push that piece of content out. And I think the problem there is you can't quote it by an AI either. So you can't like put quotation marks and say it was generated by WriterZen or something, right? So that is definitely one problem. Now it depends on the user again. If they're gonna have to cheat their way through, just like how SEO has worked a long time ago, it's just all just, you know, keyword stuffing. We can't really stop it. There always is going to be people who's trying to hack the system and just trying to get their way through. It's always going to happen. However, for those of you who really want to be ahead of the game, such as now that you have Google algorithmic updates and not be kind of eliminated from the whole race of creating the best content to be ranked, then you should know that you should be doing the right thing, right? If you generated a piece of content, fix it, edit it, make it look better. Because if you were to think about it, it already saved you so much time. Might as well spend a little bit of time making it better, because at the end of the day, your brand, your tone and manner, if you're going to generate anything that's related to personal branding, there's no way AI generated piece of content can just be published. So putting that in as well, just reminding yourself that, you know, do the right thing for the long run, because there will be updates where there will be detections, just like Google. It is bound to happen. So just noting that on your own is an important thing. But doing that doesn't really stop other people from hacking it. Just like, as Afnan would know, like just SEO is the same thing. It's still the same thing, right? It's getting better, but it doesn't mean that people aren't hacking the system. So it's just a different system now that you have AI. I think for me, though, the most interesting thing, because I do have a lot of interest in the whole education system, is I want to know how schools would be dealing with it, just based on how students are generating their homework. Now, in Hong Kong right now, there's a lot of universities already saying they're banning the use of AI, which I think personally is a very dumb move, right? At the end of the day, it's kind of like using thesaurus or using Wikipedia. They're all tools. If you were to ask me, still the source is the human being, is the user. How you consolidate and streamline all these different information into a storytelling that it's fitted for your homework, your curriculum, your whatever that you need as a deliverable, is still a human thing. So that could actually enhance the capability of students or even professionals in the marketing arena to really think about what story they're telling. So they still have all these building blocks from AI, but how are they stringing them together into a story? It might just end up pushing us all the way up with our level of storytelling too. You know, who knows? Some might be very lazy and just trying to push out AI content. Some might be trying to use them as building blocks and tell better stories. For me, as an optimist, I would believe that a lot of us who are really passionate about the whole content marketing industry would go the other way, right? Use these tools, make better stories. So then again, I think I'm looking forward to seeing how schools around the world will react and how students actually respond to using these new tools, because at the end, I think we learn a lot from just younger generations as well. How to utilize these tools at school is what will kind of direct us as marketers as well, because we're trying to reach them at the end of the day. How we use it too, and keep that originality and authenticity within AI generated content.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I'm looking forward to it as well. So what do you think about this, Afnan? Do you think that do you have any ideas about the relationship between AI assisted content with the readers? How will this affect them, for example, like something like that? Yeah.
So think of it as how content marketing was approached, or even how SEO was approached just a couple of months ago, right? If you're just creating content that's based off, like, that's just a spin-off of the first 5 articles that you see on Google, then it's probably basically never gonna rank, right? But that's exactly the thing. Like right now, AI, especially like ChatGPT, the only thing that they're essentially capable of doing is taking whatever's out there, creating like a spin-off of it, and presenting it to you as a more coherent set of information. That doesn't exactly work in SEO. It doesn't work right now. I assume that it's gonna stop working even more in the future, because Google has been cracking down on AI generated content already, and that's why the whole additional E in the EAT guidelines came up, right? So original experiences and things of that sort. So I think for me, like, again, the same thing that I said earlier on, if you are using AI, use it as a starting point. But then again, like you're always gonna have to add your own perspective to things. If you have any original research, then please go ahead and add that to your content, just so that you actually offer something that is different to what's already out there. Because creating a regurgitated piece of content, it's not gonna get you anywhere. Like it's not gonna rank. It's just gonna be pointless. Even if you spend like half an hour editing the article or even an hour editing the article, if you're not really adding anything new to it, then I could basically never see it rank, right? And I feel like Google and even other search engines, like they will get on board with the entire idea of AI generated content pretty soon. Like we know that Google is already coming out with Bard and like the whole Bing chatbot and whatever is going on over there. So the whole point of all of this is to tell people that, you know what, like we accept that AI is out there and everybody knows that you're using AI, but how you're using it, that's what really matters. So again, it's just being as original as possible. I think in fact right now, like with the current content that's out there, I feel like a lot of that is going to get flagged because of the new updates that come out with search engines as well. Because uh, if things did slip through the cracks and you somehow did manage to like get even on the second page of Google with content that was regurgitated, Google's probably just eventually going to think that that was created by AI as well. So you better start optimizing all of that content for readers a lot more now.
Yeah, that's right. So do you guys have any practical tips for, utilizing and crafting AI assisted strategies? Can we start with Afnan first, since you are answering my previous questions?
Sure. So, just to give you like a couple of examples again, for my own processes, like it's pretty straightforward, I'd say. You have to do research, of course, like on the SERP and for your competitors. So tools like WriterZen, they have helped me a lot in that space. Figuring out what exactly it is that I want to talk about, figuring out how to talk about or how to approach a certain topic. And you see, like it really matters that you give the reader exactly what they're looking for. So like you can't really skimp out on details that your reader would actually want, right? So if you check out like the top ranking articles, you will notice certain patterns in there, which AI will essentially help you identify even better. So with something like that, I think using all of these tools for research is a great idea. The other major part where I have been using AI for, I think, a couple of years at this point is optimizing my own content. So like if if we have content which already exists, but it hasn't exactly been ranking for the right keywords, what is it that I'm supposed to do to make this piece of content better? Is my content lacking in any NLP terms that I should have put in over there? Should I improve the readability somehow? AI has been helping me out with all of that as well. So basically using all of these tools to figure out how I can make the experience better for my readers or for my audience in general. Like, because I'm not just talking about articles over here, I'm talking about like even podcast scripts or even YouTube videos, for instance, right? So it's definitely been helpful for that. Basically put your audience first, use AI as a starting point, and then like you obviously should know your audience better than anyone else. So try using AI as much as possible, but then just don't ever consider it as the final word though. At least not yet.
Yeah, I definitely agree with putting your audience first, because the content is for the readers, right? So we need to do research on them and think of them as a main characters now in our writing. What about you, Joyce? Do you have any practical tips for using AI generated?
I mean, again, the first thing is don't start with AI, right? Like, don't think about like, okay, I'm gonna have to create some personal branding content or like company content. I'm gonna go jump at AI. It's the same thing as what people have been doing and still do when they're thinking about creating a presence online. They jump at social media platforms, right? They register for countless accounts on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, what have you, and then realize that they have no clue what to post, or they have no clue why their content work or why they don't work. So I'm going to be the old-fashioned cheesy granny here. I'm just going to say you have to start with your content strategy regardless of having AI or not. That's the whole point of, I guess, this discussion as well, right? Like, how do you maximize the content relevancy and the human engagement by not starting with AI? You always start with a strategy, understand your target audience, align it with your own personal brand or your brand key message, and then create your content pillars. Once you actually have those foundations set up, do you consider your content creation process, right? Like Afnan said, if you do have things like blogs or landing pages or things like video, YouTube descriptions, podcasts, all that kind of stuff, my suggestion is, again, cheesy granny talk here, really have those on your content funnel first. Understand what is there for what, right? Like if your podcast is there for awareness, then make sure that it is content geared for awareness. You're not really trying to sell people anything. Have all those foundations really set up before you even consider the whole idea of implementing AI. Now, for myself, once I have all these foundations, because I don't test a lot of these tools on my clients, I test them a lot on my own content just so I have a grip and understand what it is and I can suggest it to them. Because to be fair, a lot of clients here, especially in Hong Kong, they just view like AI as a simple thing, so they shouldn't be paying you to do it. So therefore, I still think that there is a hurdle, right? It's not like, oh, we're using AI, then we can charge you all this money. They're more like, you're using AI, you should be giving me a discount. So therefore, I've been testing it mostly on my own things. And as mentioned, a lot of those processes are based on repurposing. So what I do is perhaps it might be viewed or regarded as being very annoying. But what I do is I never use one tool for generating one piece of content. So a lot of people, even the people that I've met at different networking events, they're like, Joyce, you're a content marketer. I've used blah, blah tool to generate a presentation deck. And I think it's amazing. And my thing is, I'm happy that you find it amazing, but then, are you sure the people who's going to read it will find it amazing? Like, you found it amazing because it saved you a lot of time. That really upped your whole dopamine as well. You're like, oh, I would have spent 5 hours on this. Now I spent 15 minutes on it. And then you're balancing out that time spent with the quality. That's why you think the quality is really high. I think that's also like a mentality thing, but not getting too much into that idea. So for myself, when let's just say I need to repurpose a blog for an EDM, right? What I would do is I would actually plug out the key points that I've already written in that blog, which I've written. So not an AI. AI didn't write that blog. I wrote that blog. I'll pull out the things that I think are going to resonate with my audience list. And then I actually throw it in rephrasing AI tools. So there's like AI tools that does rephrasing. You can just put in like a paragraph and it'll just rephrase it for you. After rephrasing it, it usually suggests words that I might not normally use, which at sometimes are actually pretty great. So it makes it more readable, like what Afnan said. Sometimes I might be choosing words like hence and therefore, which readers don't really like, but writers use a lot. And then it might help me consider alternatives. Once I have that, then I will actually pull in that topic of what I wanted to say in the EDM. Let's just say I'm talking about identifying your target audience persona. I'll take that and I'll pull it into another tool, which just says, give me a topic, I'll generate a paragraph, and I'll put that in there. Now I have two different assets, one that's been repurposed rephrased based on what I have, and then one that's completely generated based on a topic that I want. And then I kind of mix them, mash them together like Play-Doh, like, this worked really well. I kind of like this line isn't as good as this, or this is better. And I kind of put them together and see how that feels. After that, I might put it through the rephrasing again, or I might generate even more supplement text based on other AI writers, or I might go in and look at SEO if that's ever the case. If I'm doing it for EDM, then there's no point. But if ever I am taking that out again for like a YouTube description or something, then I do that again. So as you can tell, it's a process. Like mentioned, it's never like a point to point. I push this in and then I have this and I push this out. It's more really taking the whole process into the whole content creation aspect and really utilizing it and taking things that I would not have considered from an AI and putting it onto back what I have. So definitely I've been using AI tools, including of WriterZen. I really like the next sentence thing. Maybe not a lot of people use it, but I just I constantly use. I just want to see what they'll write for the next sentence, or what kind of a way it would write it, just out of curiosity. It's kind of like looking at how another writer would write something as well. It just happens to be an AI. So I think it's all a learning process, but that's kind of the whole process. Let's not put it as a strategy, but the whole process I'm trying to take it through as a content marketer, creating different pieces of content for myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And you kind of shed light for me on using many tools to help with the content writing thing. I've never actually think about it before, but yeah, that's definitely cool. And one thing I want to add in when you discuss about WriterZen is that it can help you to create next sentence. Yeah, I do use it a lot, but also a great thing about it is that you can control your input. So which that is not going to be too much AI generated tool, something like that. But yes, thank you for your opinion. So I think we don't have a lot of time left for the webinar. So should we move on to the Q&A sections?
For sure.
Yeah, of course. I'm gonna share the screen. Wait for me. I'm gonna share the screen. Okay. So we received a lot of questions from the attendees, and we'll try our best to answer them. But if we cannot, you guys can totally follow us on our social media, and yeah, and then we can. Okay, and then we can show you the answer. So as you can tell, a lot of questions, but let's make our way from the bottom up. First one, really interesting one. Can you guys see my screen? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, first question is how to apply AI in research methods. Afnan, can I hear this from you?
Of course. So just a couple of examples from my own experience. The first thing that I do is actually I do like a little bit of a manual check just to see what the intent is like, just to make sure that I have the intent right in my own head. For instance, if I'm taking a keyword like right off the top of my head, because this is actually the very last keyword that I searched for on WriterZen myself, buy iPhone 14 online, right? So that's extremely transactional. And for something like that, like I can't exactly create an article for that. I would probably do like directly a landing page or sell to the end user as quickly as possible, right? So for something like this, like I'm just gonna skim through the SERP as quickly as possible. And then from then on, use a tool like WriterZen or even Market News just to check out what exactly it is that is actually resonating with people, just to see, just basically to improve my chances of selling as quickly as possible, right? Then if we're talking about something that's very awareness based, for instance, or even consideration based, I will see what other companies were talking about, what's up, what's going on their social media, what's going on their blog posts, just so that I can cover the same topics but in a lot more detail, and adding those nuances and adding for instance, if we talk about SaaS over here, like every tool, like at face value, you're going to find that they do very similar things, but it actually boils down to the features and how the backend processes actually go on in them, right? So figuring out the approach that another company has taken with the help of AI, it just quickens the process so much. So that's one thing that I have definitely been using for my own research. Knowing what other people are talking about, knowing how they've approached topics, knowing which keywords they're using, knowing which additional terms they've been using, and even like using AI to generate relevant imagery or anything that could basically improve the usability or the user experience for the person who ultimately will be consuming the content. That's how I've been using AI.
Yeah, of course. What about you, Joyce? Do you do the same thing as Afnan, or is it a different way for you?
I mean, yeah, definitely what Afnan said is what the majority of us would use AI when it comes to research. However, I did come up with this kind of maybe it's a more niche or more creative way of using AI. I just kind of came across and stumbled across it. So long story short, I've been trying to build a blog using AI, various AI tools, each of them just generating one paragraph, and then kind of straining them together and then editing them and things like that. The blog that I created was predominantly about everything related to personal branding because I see the potential in that topic. And then what I did was I actually just pumped in questions that I found that a lot of people search for, right? What is blah, blah, or like how is, or like why is it important, all that kind of stuff. And I pumped it in to various, I would say around almost half a dozen of different AI tools that I could get my hands on for free just to try things out. And what it is certain of these tools, which are really cool, is they actually give you quotes. So they say, I don't know, I'm just making this up, but like Afnan said, quote, personal branding is important for every one of us because blah, blah, blah. And then it's a quote, right? Now, in my point of view, I have no clue. Let's just say I didn't know Afnan. I have no clue who Afnan is, and AI decided to quote her. What I do after that is I actually research who Afnan is. And then I look at what Afnan that creates content on. What did she talk about and said about personal branding? Why is it important? Why did it actually go through into the AI? Was it because her website ranking was high? Was it because of... So for me, which is a very interesting thing, is actually AI is able to give you names that you would have not have landed on if you were just doing a plain SEO or search on Google, because it'd be picking up different points that they regard as being important for whatever topic that you are trying to talk about. And that has been one interesting segue that I've been trying to utilize AI when it comes to my format of research, right? Especially with anything that you want to talk about history as well, right? The history of, I don't know, I'm just making this up, the history of pizza or something. Maybe it'll quote somebody that you have no clue about who wrote like maybe one book, but they came out through the AI. So I think that's an interesting thing as well, to pick up on things that the AI has generated and try and figure out who they are, why it's been picked up, and elaborate your research through that sort of way.
Oh yeah, of course, definitely. So I saw questions in the Q&A sections from the Zoom. It's a very interesting one. Could you please tell me how can I use ChatGPT to generate my content? Like, can I hear from you, Afnan?
Sure. Okay. So with ChatGPT, I think the most interesting thing is that the more comprehensive the prompt that you give it, or the more specific you go with your prompt, the better that your answer is going to be. So like initially, I'll be completely honest, like when I started experimenting with ChatGPT myself, I would give it like really stupid prompts like help me create a content strategy on, I don't know, like for a SaaS product that helps with marketing analytics. And of course, like if I give it extremely generic information like this, it's just gonna give me a generic answer back, right? So the suggestions that I would get in return were something like, oh, the first thing that you should do is figure out who your target audience is, and then create, I don't know, like 5 blogs per month and then repurpose those blogs. That was literally it. Like it would just keep on, it would literally just keep on repeating the same thing over and over. And that is essentially information that every single one of us already has, like whether or not we've been in content, you know that like if somebody says content, then that's really the first idea that comes into anyone's mind. Because for so long, like content has been associated solely with blog posts or articles or things of that sort. Now, when you give it more specific prompts, for instance, I am creating a content strategy in which I don't only want to focus on blog posts. Tell me how I can use this blog post and repurpose it into 5 more pieces of content for, I don't know, like marketing leaders who are on a tight budget right now, or marketing leaders who want to buy a marketing analytics product in the next 3 to 6 months. So if you go really specific like that, and if you actually give information about your own target audience, that helps a lot, in my opinion. I guess with, again, like I'm talking specifically from a SaaS standpoint, or a more technical standpoint, because that is primarily the industry that I have been playing around with. And in my own experience, like when I've this is just for the strategy side that I'm talking about. But if you actually give it a better prompt for creating an actual blog post as well. For instance, actually, even if you tell it to create a script for you, for instance, if I wanted to use AI to generate a script for this webinar of mine, what would I do? I would tell them that the title of the webinar is enhancing your content strategy or enhancing your content research methods using AI. And I would tell them that, you know what, like I am a content consultant. Already have this much experience in content. My key areas in which I work are technical SaaS or B2B tech. And my audience is essentially looking for those kind of answers from me as well. So like, how can I please create a script for me which keeps all of this in mind? So the answer that you will get will most definitely be a lot better. There are actually, like, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this or not, but there are actually a lot of people that have been putting up a lot of prompts for ChatGPT and other AI tools on LinkedIn as well. So if you're not active there, I would recommend that you do that also. But it all essentially just boils down to like experimenting, figuring out what kind of response you're getting for what kind of question, and then giving it like very specific details from them from that point on.
Definitely. I think we should move on to the next question. Thank you for that. Okay, thank you for that, Afnan. Okay, I think I should ask Joyce these questions. What is your preferred content workflow, and where does AI fit into this workflow? And as you mentioned before, you don't seek AI first. So can you answer these questions for these anonymous attendees?
For sure, for sure. So yeah, I never start with AI first for the trap that it will enhance me into. But obviously content strategy, content pillar, and then starting to create your content. Now, I still believe that there is a very important value of you creating your own pieces of content, because I have been asked at other webinars as well, like how do you remain the consistency within your content? A lot of people might say, oh, you know, the frequency, how often you update it and post it. For me, at the end of the day, it's the person, right? If the person that's writing it is consistent, so it's the same person, then the content is going to be consistent, right? That person might improve, but it's not he or she is not going to make a big leap in 2 days and just, you know, start sounding like somebody else. So the consistency within the writer is also very, very important, which I think a lot of people kind of underestimate the importance of it. They just think that, you know, I can hire a freelance this month and change to somebody else as long as they have some sort of tone and manner guideline. That's really not it. So once you actually know that how to achieve that consistency by having that writer or that person who is in-house or outsourced, having that connection, that person understands what they need to execute and create, then after having those assets created, would at least my suggestion is to fit in the AI afterwards. I personally, I think this is still an experimentation, but for me, I would definitely try and release my own content first and see how the performances are. Because then again, if you kind of try to optimize it in the very beginning, you never know if it's your optimization making a fault at not helping it push to whatever your objectives or your goals are, or if it's actually the content itself. If the content isn't really resonating, so the subject matter or maybe it's even as something as simple as your header or your title isn't hooky enough. It's not really hooking in your audience attention. So for me, I would rather you really just try and write something first, and then get it out there. Have a benchmark of what your traffic or your reach or whatever metrics you're measuring it by, and then kickstart in with AI and try and optimize that. So like mentioned, I use that afterwards for repurposing, right? I don't actually use an AI to generate, let's just say, my YouTube video script or my blogs. It doesn't really do that. I figured out something I already want to do and I want it to be better. Then I look for AI and I fit that within my workflow. And then what you can actually tell in a very systematic and framework approach is you can see how much growth implementing an AI tool during that stage can actually help you attain. Let's just say that when you were writing by yourself or by a freelance writer, you get X amount of reach. Once you get it optimized with an AI, a certain tool, you actually get this. Then you can actually think about doing various A/B tests if the time allows, or if it is a campaign or something that has a very specific goal, or if it's just an always on, you can still see the growth or the potential of how you can actually increase the performance or the quality of your content by implementing AI afterwards. And what I would say is elongating the whole process and the effects of your piece of content, because as content marketers, we don't create things that are, at least for myself, I don't create copywriting stuff. Like I don't create a copywritten piece just to drive an action, because once it's driven in action, then that piece is obsolete, right? I told somebody to buy something, they already bought it. They're never going to revisit that piece of content. But where it comes to content marketing, it's really about constantly building that traction when it comes to trust, brand awareness, interest, so on and so forth. Then you can actually really think about how you can maximize that effect by putting in AI tools during its lifespan to push it further into the future, because the AI would be able to come in and say, hey, Joyce, maybe you should add this. Hey, Joyce, maybe you should add this and do this. So therefore, it really helps with that sort of workflow. At least in my point of view, I think that's the best way that I've experimented and find it the most fitting for myself. So that would be my answer to my preferred content workflow with AI.
Yeah. Actually, I feel really related and agree with you on this, because me myself, I do create a outline first, and I did my research, and then came AI in the later. But actually, I don't use AI that much. But if I have to, that would be my way of doing. So yes, thank you for your answer. That was very great. And also, I saw that we have another questions in the live chat. I will read this for you guys. Will Google recognize that articles that I write with your product are generated by AI, and will that affect my Google ranking negatively? Please explain in detail. Actually, if any of you want to answer this, I would be happy to hear it for you guys.
I'll probably pass it to Afnan, actually.
Okay.
Okay, so I think the question was very specifically asking about content generated by WriterZen, if I'm not wrong. Just to give you like a generic answer though, currently, like from my understanding at least, there is no way for Google to really find out whether a piece of content has been generated by AI or not. But saying that, the same thing that I said earlier on as well applies over here too. So like if AI generated content is essentially just a spin-off of content that already exists, right? So unless it's original or unless you're really adding anything new to it, I think and I believe that it won't really rank as well as it should. So even if you are using an AI tool, at least how they currently stand and how Google currently works, I'm not really sure if it's going to be more accommodating to AI generated content in the future, or if anything else is going to change in that regard. But if you are using AI, then definitely like just take inspiration from it. Even if like your writers are struggling to come up with proper titles or subheadings or things of that sort, you can always plug things like that into your AI tool, but just don't copy it as is, and make sure that you're always adding like very specific information, whether it's about your company or whether it's about any like research that you've done, insights that you got from your own customers, suggestions that you got. Like try to incorporate those into your content as much as possible, so that it's not just exactly what a AI tool will give you, which is a spin-off of whatever already exists. So unless you're trying to make your content unique, I do not think that it will rank.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. Because AI is still a machine and it's a language processor. So I don't think that if you want to create something very unique, you should use your own your own skills in order to build a very cool content for your brand, something like that.
Yep.
So,
And just to add to that, I'm sorry to cut you off. Just to add to that a little bit, I think in the future, like a lot of companies are actually going to use AI to come up with like even their messaging documents or their editorial guidelines or documents as samples for their tone of voice and things of that sort. So I think that that is actually not a very good idea either, because that's just being extremely lazy with your own content. So if you use an AI tool to say that these are the guidelines that we're supposed to be following, um, it's just going to be generic, right? And there's going to be absolutely nothing original about
Yeah.
that messaging document that you come up with or those guidelines that you come up with. So from that point on, like you can't really expect your writers, whether they're AI or not, um, to come up with anything that's unique in any way. So yeah, my recommendation would always be like if you are spending time on documents, to make your content efforts, to make your content marketing efforts better in any way, then ideally like work on those yourself instead of handing those things over to AI, because that sets the groundwork and you don't want that to be like completely robotic ever.
Yeah, yeah, definitely agrees with you. Thank you for that answer, but I have to say that it's nearly time for us to end the webinar. So to sum up with everything, I think it's best to say that when doing a content, we need to recognize that AI cannot replace humans and the way that we put our effort into our content, right? And there's differences between AI generated and AI assisted content strategy, and we should not abuse AI way too much. And when creating a I'm sorry, and when it creating a writing, I think we should focus on the audience first, and everything can come later. So thank you for joining today's sections, guys. Especially a big thank you to our two lovely and knowledgeable speakers. I had to say I had tons of fun, and I honestly I didn't want to stop the webinar, but unfortunately we have to because we have time limitations. All the questions that you need answered from us, you can totally follow our social media. We will try our best to answer them. And if you want to watch today's webinar, you can check your emails. We can send it to you later. And to be honest, I can't wait to have another collaborations with you guys, Afnan and Joyce. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Do you guys have anything else to say?
It was my pleasure as well. Great stuff. And I can't wait to join again for another WriterZen event, as well as meeting Afnan, maybe in the future in person as well. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. What about you?
Yeah, this was definitely tons of fun. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much, guys. Okay, goodbye. Hope to see you guys.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
joining.
you.